thoroughness as well in whatever we learn also matters. The companions would say when we learn 10 verses from the Prophet ﷺ, we wouldn't go back to learn additional 10 until we've effectively understood those 10 and we've also put them into practice. Nowadays, it is learning by certification, qualification. And qualification and certification is one thing, scholarship completely is another thing. So my suggestion is, yes, just as the verses of the Qur'an have what we call sababun nuzul, I mean causes of revelation, which if you interpret those verses in the light of the causes that prompted their revelation, you'll be able to put the verses in some clear context. For example, Allah says in Surah to Muhammad, فَإِذَا لَقِيتُمُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا فَضَرْبَ الرِّقَابِ حَتَّى إِذَا أَثْخَنْتُمُوهُمْ فَشُدُّوا الْوَثَاقَ وَإِمَّا مَنًّا وَإِمَّا فِدَاءً حَتَّى تَضْعَ الْحَرْبُ أَوْزَارَهَا. When you meet the unbelievers, فَضَرْبَ الرِّقَابِ, strike at their necks. With what? Sword. حَتَّى إِذَا أَثْخَنْتُمُوهُمْ, till you have thoroughly subdued them. فَشُدُّوا الْوَثَاقَ, tighten up against them. I mean, be very intense in terms of the pressure you exert on them. And when you have thoroughly subdued them, وَإِمَّا مَنًّا, you can then decide to be benevolent or generous and then set them free without any price. وَإِمَّا فِدَاءً, and if you deem it appropriate because of the prevailing realities of the situation, you can also set them free on a ransom. This is a verse that was recited by the Prophet and the companions, but we never had it on record a situation where the Prophet was going on the street and met a companion and then struck at his neck. None of the companions as well ever did that. Killed a person just because the person was a kafir. This is a verse of the Quran. So Boko Haram, for example, you can find their leader standing before the people and quoting verses like this. But this is a verse that was peculiar to war situation. This is a verse by which Allah was charging his own army too at the point of meeting the enemies. And it's just, we all know war is about killing. Now, if the generals are bagging stars and whatever, they are being promoted and bagging stars over what? Killing and destruction. That is what they are trained to do. You don't fire a rifle and something good will never come out of it. It is something that will be destructive. But in Islam, there are always prerequisite measures to avert war, things like that. But when the commander-in-chief, that's also one thing we also must know. War is the prerogative of the imam, not of anybody else. And when we mean by the imam, the person who wields the overall political authority, the sovereign of a particular nation. We call President Buhari what? Commander-in-chief of the armed forces. To have provisions for defense, I think is a necessity for any society. In Nigeria, we have Nigerian Air Force, we have Army, we have Navy. They are trained to do just one thing. What is it? Huh? Defense. How do they achieve that defense? Let's speak in plain terms. To do what? To kill, to fight. Is it wrestling or boxing? So if you want to understand such verse, you can only understand it in the context of the chief of army staff addressing a batch of the Nigerian army that are about to proceed to the northeast to fight Boko Haram. And is now telling them, always up your game, be on top of the situation, you must not delay, be the first to strike, things like that. That's what you should expect him to say. So, and that is the context in which that verse was. When you meet the unbelievers in the battlefield, don't hesitate. Don't waste time. Aim at their necks and keep up the intensity of your strikes such that you subdue them. And the moment you have realized that, okay, you've exerted enough force that they've come under, killing must not continue, you have two options. It's either you set them free after you had held them in captivity, or you release them upon ransom. وَقَاتِلُهُنَّ حَتَّى لَا تَكُونَ فِتْنَةً وَيَكُونَ الدِّينُ لِلَّهِ. Two things must make the fighting continue. Hatta la takuna fitna. You continue to fight until you've gained enough dominance by which you can assert and determine your right. Then you should now be the person that can show, the party that can show benevolence.